Hey, what's up? It's Karen San Diego, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about mental health changes after VSG. So I know weight loss surgery is all about changing the outside, changing your health, changing what you eat, changing how you look, all of that. But oftentimes people forget that this surgery also has a pretty big impact on your mental health. Remember that one of the main things that get us here in the first place is addiction. So most people who get VSG surgery or any bariatric surgery have struggled with food addiction, which is very, very real. And I stress that just because I feel like food addiction is the kind of thing that kind of doesn't get taken seriously. People understand drug addiction, people understand sex addiction, people understand alcohol addiction. But when it comes to food addiction, a lot of the times people with food addiction are just seen as greedy, and their addiction is not taken seriously. Even for me, for an example, when I've mentioned the fact that I got this surgery to help with my food addiction, a lot of the times I'd be met with comments of just like, how about you just eat less? How about you just try to eat healthier? How about you? And it's the type of thing that you would never tell somebody with alcohol addiction to just drink less, because it's pretty much understood within our society that people who have an addiction, it's not that simple for them to just stop, right? And food addiction is no different. So there's people who get the surgery because they have food addiction, but that's not everybody. But for those who do have a food addiction, like myself, that oftentimes is where the mental health aspect of this starts. I have a lot of points for this video, but I really wanted to start with talking about before you even have the surgery and struggling with food addiction, just because I wanted to shed light on how real food addiction actually is, and how a lot of the times that food addiction happens as a result of finding a way to cope with some sort of trauma. So before you even get surgery, it's really, really important to speak to a therapist, whether that be a therapist provided to you by your bariatric center or a therapist that you speak to on your own, just to make sure that you are handling your problem with food addiction before even thinking about anything else. Through doing my research about this journey and watching other VSG and bariatric surgery content creators, one of the main reasons that people fail at VSG or bariatric surgery in general is because of not handling the food addiction in the beginning. And going through this journey with that being unresolved, it can lead to finding ways to still binge eat and still overeat and not respect your restriction and still continuing to eat unhealthy foods. That comes from not settling your food addiction or just even not taking it seriously. So like, even if you are somebody who isn't going to therapy necessarily for your addiction, it is still important that you are doing the work on your own in that case to make sure that you are recognizing the difference between hunger and your food addiction telling you that you want to eat. If you do not resolve that, this journey is not going to be successful. For me personally, I'm not in therapy for my food addiction. It is something that I have been working through on my own, although yeah, I am really, really interested in going to therapy for this. But what I've been doing on my own is doing a lot of work to think about why I want to eat at certain points. Am I actually hungry, or is my food addiction making me want to eat? And constantly talking through that with myself. But I'm going to get into that further because there is a point about this in the rest of the video. For the sake of keeping this video balanced, I have my list. I have a few things on this list about how the surgery has negatively impacted my mental health. And then I also have some things here of how the surgery has positively impacted my mental health. Because although there's a lot of conversations about mental health after VSG, a lot of the time it's focused on how it negatively impacts you, but it's not all negative. So I wanted to make sure that I'm giving a balanced view. All right, so to start my list off, one of the biggest things that have been negatively impacting my mental health after surgery is body dysmorphia. And a lot of people talk about this. You'll see body dysmorphia being brought up everywhere, but body dysmorphia is pretty much just when you are losing weight or gaining weight or anything, when there's changes happening in your body that are a fact, right? So the scale is going down, your clothing sizes are changing, but for whatever reason, you have a difficult time seeing it. So I know for me, for example, I know that I've lost a lot of weight. I know that I look good, right? But there are certain times where I look in the mirror and I still see a heavier person. And I know that that sounds weird, but if you've ever experienced body dysmorphia, you understand that for whatever reason, sometimes our brain just does not catch up with what's happening. And I think it's because of how rapid the weight loss happens that it's an adjustment that our brains have to make. But for me, I know that I definitely struggle with seeing the weight loss sometimes. And the way this shows up for me a lot of the times is when I'm shopping and I'm trying to find clothes. It is very, very difficult for me to pick up small sizes because I genuinely don't believe that they're going to fit me. And they do every single time, but it is still a lot of mental pressure with myself to even allow myself to pick up small sizes because I don't physically see myself as a person who can fit into that. And it also can show up in ways like sometimes I'll look in the mirror and like for a second I'll look at myself and I'll still see a bigger person. Usually what I'll do for this is I'll stand in the mirror and I'll literally just stand there and I'll stare at myself for a long time. And eventually, like sometimes I'm able to see it. But there are definitely times where I just, for whatever reason, it's just not clicking for me. And when this happens, for me, I like to take pictures of myself. And the body dysmorphia is never really an issue in pictures. Like when I look at a picture, I can always see the weight loss. Sometimes I'll be sitting here, I take pictures of myself and I'll look at the picture and I'll just be like, that's me. Like it'll be really, really shocking to me that that person in the picture is me because I don't necessarily recognize that person as myself. Which is strange because I also look back at pictures from when I was bigger and I don't necessarily recognize that person as myself either. So I don't know who I am sometimes. Like, to be honest, it's a really weird feeling to not necessarily connect to the person I see in the mirror or in the pictures and not necessarily connect to the person I see in my old pictures. So it's like, I don't know, like I'm having sometimes like a little bit of an identity crisis trying to figure out exactly who I am now because I feel like I'm living in someone else's body sometimes, if that makes sense. This has definitely gotten better as I get further along in my journey, especially now where I'm at the point where I'm not exactly dropping pounds like crazy like I used to. Things are kind of leveling off. I'm getting more accustomed to this body. So this is definitely something that was happening a lot more in the beginning. I want to say maybe around like 5 months post-op, once like the weight loss started to become noticeable, was when I was struggling with this more, and it gets better as time goes on, but it's definitely not something that's gone away. Like it's definitely something that I still deal with, not as much in the mirror anymore, but definitely a lot when it comes to shopping. Next on the list of things that have been negatively impacting my mental health is stalls. So this one is another one that isn't an issue now. I don't have an issue with stalls now. They don't bother me anymore. I've been the same exact, if you watch my 10 month update, I've been pretty much that exact weight for this entire month as well. Nothing has changed. I randomly will like lose like 2 pounds and then gain the 2 pounds, and I'm just hovering around 163. Like I'll go down to 161 and then I'll go back to 163. So that's pretty much where my body is currently settling at. So technically I guess this is a stall, or maybe I'm in maintenance mode, I don't know. But that doesn't bother me, right? But it doesn't bother me because my goal weight was 165. So not moving in the scale when I'm already within my goal weight, I think that's why these stalls aren't bothering me. But before I got to my goal weight, stalls definitely did bother me. And it was just like, I really just want to achieve my goals. I want this to work. And in the beginning, when I was still, you know, closer to my surgery date, the stalls used to make me feel like I was failing. I remember crying all the time whenever I was in a stall. I remember trying to figure out what I was supposed to do, feeling like, am I eating too much? And then having to have the reality check of, no, you're not. You're eating 3 ounces of food. Like, you're not eating too much. You're not doing anything wrong. And then that's when I kind of got into the mentality of, look, if I continued to lose weight and never stalled, if every single week I was just dropping 10, 15, 20 pounds, like as I was in the beginning, then I would literally weigh nothing right now. I would be 0 pounds. So like stalls are a normal part of the process, and I understand that now, and I understand that they just kind of have to happen. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm following my routine. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So the stall isn't my fault, and it's not a reflection of me failing. It's just what has to happen for my body to reach its natural, healthy, resting weight. But in the beginning, they definitely were stressful because, you know, we got surgery. We got 80% of our stomach moved, cut out of our body. in order to achieve our goals. So when you feel like you're not being successful after doing so much to achieve your goal, it definitely is mentally taxing, and it starts to feel like, oh my God, will nothing work for me? Am I just stuck in a body I don't want? And for a while, I definitely was struggling with that. But if you go back and watch my video on stalls, I talk about some things you can do. But my main advice with stalls is to just wait them out. And just understanding that it's once you really, really get it in your head that it's part of the process and that like you have to stall in order to maintain a healthy weight, they become a lot easier on your mental. Next on my list of things that have been negatively impacting me, and this one is, I think, kind of like a weird one, and it's that when I was bigger, I consider myself to be like an invisible person. I always kind of just felt invisible. No one ever really noticed me. Like, I felt like I walked into a room, nobody saw that I was there. I was just very incognito. I wasn't somebody that people stopped to pay attention to. And I feel like now that I'm smaller, I get a lot of attention in a way that gives me anxiety. So being somebody who was accustomed to being invisible and going from that to now walking into rooms and noticing people staring at you, and not just staring at you, but I feel like people now go out of their way to interact with me. If you've been following my channel, you know that I am an introvert. Although I'm here on the internet speaking to people and, you know, being outgoing behind a camera, in my real life, I'm actually extremely introverted. And sometimes when I'm noticing all of this attention and noticing people speaking to me, and like even like, for example, like I'll walk into a room, like if I even look a little bit confused, people are coming up to me to help. Hey, do you need help with something? Do you need me to help you with this? And I'm not talking about like sales associates. I'm talking about regular people who don't need to help me, just wanting to. And I'm not accustomed to that. I'm not accustomed to people looking at me. I'm not accustomed to people talking to me. I'm not accustomed to people just wanting to interact with me and wanting to help me and being friendly. I'm not accustomed to it. And while this is a good thing, technically, it's only negatively impacting my mental health because I'm not accustomed to it. And I'm a person who already has a history of struggling with anxiety. So it's the kind of thing that really does make me anxious. And I think it's something that over time will start to get better as I get more and more accustomed to the attention. But yeah, it's definitely been something that like I get very, very nervous about, and I don't know how to handle because I haven't had to interact with humans, strangers, in this way before, if that makes sense. I don't know. And then also on my list, going into what I was talking about in the beginning of this video with like food addiction before surgery, something that has negatively impacted my mental health is the fact that being that I was somebody with a food addiction, and that primarily showed up in that whenever I was going through something, and I was frequently going through something, unfortunately, I coped with food. Like that is how I was able to manage my emotions. And that even isn't even just like something I did when I was sad. It was something I did when I was happy. It was something I did when I was sad. It was something I did when I was mad. Regardless of what emotion I was feeling, I coped with it with food. So if I was having a bad day, it was like, okay, let me just go have this food because I'm having a bad day. It'll make me feel better. If I was having a good day, it was like, oh, today's a good day. Let me go get this food to make me happier. Regardless of what the emotion I was feeling was, I coped with my emotions with food. And now that coping with food isn't really something that I can do to the extent that I used to, sometimes when I'm feeling emotions, especially when it comes to sadness, anger, those type of emotions, and now that I can't cope with food, it forces me to find another way to cope. And sometimes I don't know how to do that. I don't know what the other way to cope is supposed to be. Which makes me have to actually deal with the problem versus just eating to avoid the problem. And I'm also the type of person who, I don't know if this is like a Gemini thing or what, but I'm the type of person who sometimes will be in a bad mood for no reason. Like there isn't an actual thing that has happened to me, but I'm just suddenly in a bad mood. And those were especially the moments where I would go and just like have a snack and get myself out of that mood. And now when I find myself in those moods where I'm just in a bad mood, I'm just in a place where I'm just not feeling it, I can't like always just go have a snack. Like, of course I can have a snack still, but it's not gonna be the same. Like, I can't binge a snack. Like now, like if I wanted something like an Oreo, right? I'll go have an Oreo or two. Before, I would sit there and just like munch on like half the pack of Oreos, and that would be a distraction from me from however I was feeling. Whereas now, like having one or two Oreos is not going to be a distraction. So rather than mask how I'm feeling by just distracting myself with food, I have to actually sit there and think about what I'm feeling and sit in it, which sometimes is a little bit uncomfortable. But as much as this one is negatively impacting my mental health because it's forcing me to sit in my feelings and feel my feelings versus eating my feelings, I think that this is one that can eventually turn itself into a positive and just giving me better ways to manage my feelings than hurting myself, because managing my feelings with food was hurting myself. So now just having to actually think about my feelings, and especially in those moments where nothing is wrong with me, sitting in that and being like, Karen, you're good. Like, nothing is wrong. Life is great. There's absolutely no reason to feel this way. And having that talk with myself versus just comforting with food is definitely something that feels negative right now, but I'm confident that that will start to feel positive eventually. Another thing that has negatively been impacting my mental health is me trying to guilt myself when I think that I overate. And I put air quotes around that because I didn't overeat. Like, for example, right? I'll make like some baked chicken wings, right? No carbs in that, pretty healthy. And I'll eat, normally I can eat about 3 chicken wings. And now we're talking like wing portions, like not the leg and the flat. Like, I'm talking about like just the flats, because I eat flats, not drumsticks. And I'll eat like 3 of them normally, but like, let's say I have a little bit more availability and I can eat 4. I'll sit there and be like, oh my God, I ate 4. I'm overeating. I'm gonna get fat again. And I'll start beating myself up. And it's like, sis, you had 4 chicken wings, 4 baked chicken wings at that. You're not gonna gain weight because you ate 4 chicken wings. You'll gain weight when you eat 15 chicken wings and mac and cheese and rice and cake and the whatever craziness that I would have eaten before. That's what was making me gain weight. But now, if I eat even a little bit more than I'm accustomed to eating, I sometimes will start beating myself up mentally. And I gotta stop doing that. And if you're doing it, you gotta stop doing that too. Because as long as you are sticking to small portion sizes, you will not gain weight. But sometimes I'm a little bit too hard on myself about sticking to small portions. And because sometimes I am able to eat a little bit more. And I feel like as long as you're eating something that's high in protein, low in carbs, low in sugar, it's okay to have a little bit more. As long as you're not forcing yourself to push past your restriction, it is okay. But sometimes mentally I have a hard time with that because I am extremely afraid of regain. I'm afraid of gaining weight. I'm afraid of undoing progress. So sometimes that fear can cause me to spiral a little bit and force me to do a little bit of a reality check, which luckily I'm usually able to do that reality check pretty quickly. Sometimes my husband will even be the one to do the reality check for me. Like, he'll look at me like, and that'll kind of help me get into a better mindset, but it definitely sometimes is a little bit difficult. All right, so as far as things that have been negatively impacting my mental health, those are about it. I feel like there's other things that I'm not remembering, but as far as what I remember, those are about it. But I also have some things on my list that have positively impacted my mental health, because like I said, it's not all negative. The journey is not all negative. There are some things too that have helped me after losing the amount of weight that I have lost. And for example, I'm feeling more confident. I'm sure if you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you see my posts, like, it's obvious that I'm feeling myself. It's obvious that I feel more confident, and that has definitely been positively impacted my mental health. Before, I was very, very, very insecure, like dangerously insecure, to the point where I didn't care about myself at all because I was just my own worst enemy. And since losing weight, I've felt so much more confident in myself, And what I like about that is, yes, I feel confident because I feel like I look good, but it's not just that. It's about the person that I have become since losing weight. And it stems from the fact that I'm feeling better about the way that I look. But because I feel better about the way that I look, I'm putting myself out there in ways that I just would never have put myself out there before. And because of that, I'm getting opportunities that I wasn't getting before. But it's all like cause and effect. Like, because I feel like I look better, I'm more willing to put myself out there. Because I'm more willing to put myself out there, I'm being offered more opportunities. Because I'm being offered more opportunities, I'm becoming more successful in my goals. And that just like, it's just spiraling into just positivity all around, just going on in my life right now. And it's a result of the physical changes. So that has really been positively impacting my mental health, which goes into this next point, which is just that a positive change in my mental health is just how positively I speak about myself now versus how I was before. I noticed before surgery, and like, it hurts me to even say this, and honestly, I feel I've cried about this before. Not cried because of how I feel currently, but cried kind of feeling bad for my former self. Because I used to speak really, really negatively about myself. Like, when I say I used to speak negatively about myself, I'm saying I used to say things about myself that I can't even say right now without like the video being demonetized, you know? Like, really, really negative, nasty things about myself. And I felt it genuinely. That's how I felt about myself. And that is just, it's the worst feeling to just know that you hate yourself that much that you would say those type of things about yourself. But that's where I was mentally before surgery. And I noticed that since having surgery, not even since losing over 100 pounds, just since having the surgery, I haven't said anything like that about myself since. Like, I've just had the confidence in myself. I think just the fact that I had the confidence to even decide to do this for myself has boosted my ego so much, because just giving myself the ability to change in this way has made me feel so much better about myself and so much better about what I'm capable of, that negative self-talk, I feel like, pretty much went away the day I had surgery. Like, before I had even seen any results, I stopped talking negatively about myself without even having to make the conscious decision to stop talking negatively about myself. And that right there has changed my life in so many ways. When you're your own worst enemy, things just are not going to work out. Like, you have to believe in yourself and have confidence in yourself and walk into rooms knowing that you deserve to be there. And that's where I'm at now because of this surgery. And that has just extremely positively impacted my mental health and my just overall outlook on life. Another thing that has positively impacted my mental health is the fact that I don't dodge mirrors anymore. I literally just purchased a huge mirror from my bedroom. Before buying that mirror, I legitimately, other than the mirrors in the bathroom, I only had one full-length mirror in my entire house. And that was pretty intentional because I had no real interest in looking in the mirror. But now, like, I want a mirror all over the place. I want more mirrors. I bought the huge mirror for my bedroom. I still have the other full-length mirror. I want to get a few more mirrors throughout the house because I be wanting to check myself out. I don't dodge mirrors. I actively look for mirrors now because I want to see myself. I want to take pictures in the mirror. And for such a long time, I avoided seeing myself in mirrors. I didn't want to look at myself. When I looked in the mirror, I would feel so down and depressed just as a result of seeing my own reflection. And once again, this is one of those things that make me want to cry in mourning for the person that I used to be, because that's no way to live. Like, nobody should be that turned off by their own appearance that they get depressed because they saw themselves. And when I say that out loud and I think about that, like, it makes me so sad because, like, I look back at my pictures and I'm like, yes, I was bigger, but I was beautiful. And like I can recognize that now, but at the time I didn't feel that way. I did not feel beautiful in my bigger body. I felt really disgusting, and it's just, I wish I could go back and just give myself a little bit of confidence, because being at a heavier weight does not mean that you have to be insecure. It doesn't mean that you have to feel bad about the way that you look. People we're beautiful at any size. And I wish I had that mentality back then to really understand that I'm beautiful at any size that I'm at. But just being honest, when I was in my old body, I didn't feel beautiful. Quite the opposite, to be honest. And because of that, I did not want to look in the mirror. I would get ready in the morning and just kind of quickly put myself together without having to look at myself for too long. And if I ever did look at myself, like I'd be fine looking at my face, but I didn't want to see the rest of my body at all. To the point where sometimes when I look back at my before pictures, I don't even recognize them, because honestly, I didn't look at myself that long at that size to even be able to recognize what my body actually looked like at that during that time period. But I definitely look at those pictures and just want to go back and give myself a hug and just let her know that she is beautiful. But yeah, moving past that now and being able to look at myself and recognize that I look good, even now with my wrinkly skin, droopy tits and all, like I look at my body and I see beauty in it. And it feels really good to be at a place where I can honestly say that I look at myself and see beauty in not just my face, but my body. Another thing that has been positively impacting my self-esteem and my mental health is shopping. And I know I mentioned my body dysmorphia making shopping a little bit difficult, but I'm not talking about in the store. Actually, no, in the store as well. Because one, when I'm shopping now, I can find clothes in any store that fit me. Whereas before I was kind of restricted to just a few stores that carried plus sizes. But now that I don't need to wear plus size clothes and I can buy clothes anywhere that sell clothes, even could sometimes fit children's clothes, which is a little bit weird. That alone has given me a confidence boost, because I don't feel like an other. Like, I know that I can shop anywhere. The sales associates seem a lot more willing to help me because they know that my size is carried in the store. Yeah, just knowing that my size is carried is a confidence boost. But also because my size is carried in any store that I walk into, I feel more confident in the clothes that I'm able to buy. I'm able to buy clothes that actually suit my body and look good on my body, versus before I was kind of buying clothes with the intention of covering my body. So I wasn't buying things that I necessarily thought were fashionable. I was buying things that I thought I would be able to hide in. And even if I was buying things that were fashionable, I was buying it with the intention of trying to look cute while hiding my body. Like, hiding my body was always #1 priority, and then fashion came after it. But now I'm able to buy clothes because I think that it's cute, not because it's gonna hide my body. Like, actually buying clothes for the fashions and not just for the purpose of being invisible. Another thing that has positively impacted me is, for example, I create content on social media. I'm doing so on more platforms now than I was before. So I've been creating content on YouTube here, on Instagram, and now my TikTok following has started to grow as well. So I'm creating a lot of content, and the more content you create, the more negativity that starts to happen. However, because I'm in this place now mentally where I feel confident about myself, the negative comments don't bother me. Like, when I say they don't bother me, they genuinely don't bother me. And a lot of the times, my brain automatically goes to a place of, oh, maybe they just don't know better. Oh, maybe that's a troll account, so they're not even a real person. But like, it never goes to a place of feeling like, oh my God, this person, user 3578, said I'm ugly, so now I must be ugly. Like, I know I ain't ugly. So that person's opinion doesn't bother me. When people say things like, oh, you should have gone to the gym, you cheated, doesn't bother me, because I know that that wasn't the right route for me. That while some people can just go to the gym and lose weight, for me, things were a bit more difficult. So I now have the confidence to not be offended by offensive people and offensive comments, especially those that are intended to offend me. Like, they don't, because I have the confidence to be like, your opinion is invalid. so it therefore does not matter to me. Or even if they're saying something that may be true and offensive, it also doesn't bother me because I feel confident enough in myself. I feel confident in my decisions that I've made. And overall, I'm just in a place where I'm just very unbothered. And I think that that is definitely a result of the surgery and the confidence that the surgery has given me. And that confidence has also brought me to my next point, which is that feeling confident has just allowed me to put myself out there more. And that's in terms of me putting myself in front of a camera in my job. Because remember, I'm not a full-time content creator yet. Hopefully soon, but right now I'm not a full-time content creator. So even in my work life, I feel like I'm putting myself out there more when it comes to even networking. Like I'd be sitting here on my phone looking for networking opportunities. Never would I have ever wanted to network before. That's not something that my introverted self would ever want to do. But now it's something that I definitely want to do. If you've seen, I was on a podcast recently. I wouldn't have wanted to do that before because that requires me being on camera and talking to people that I wouldn't have wanted to do that. A lot of opportunities where I'm just putting myself out there more have been happening since surgery, and that has definitely been impacting my mental health in a positive way, because the more I put myself out there, the stronger I feel like I become mentally, because I feel more confident in my parents, I feel more confident in my ideas, I feel more confident in my abilities, and all of that has just helped me with my overall outlook on life and has definitely helped with my anxiety and my depression. In that I'm just not in a dark space anymore, at least not to the extent that I was before. All right, so those are all the ways that VSG surgery has impacted my mental health, whether they be negative or positive. I wanted to make sure I gave a good balance of both so you can get a well-rounded view on what these changes are like after surgery. A lot of the videos that I've watched like this are very much focused on the negative. And while that's true, there are a lot of negative effects after surgery, there are also a lot of positive. And in my opinion and in my experience, my positive effects have outweighed my negative effects. And I feel like as I get further and further along in this journey, the negatives start to shrink. And while they're still there, the impact decreases. So once again, I feel like this surgery is so worth it. Even with the negatives that come along with it, the positive outweigh the negatives tenfold. Let me know in the comments some ways that this surgery has impacted your mental health, whether they be negative or positive. And go ahead and talk to each other in the comments. I want my platforms to be more of like a community. I want you guys to have discussions down there. I want you guys to be able to connect to other people down there other than just me. Down there, I mean in the comments. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.
Where in the world is Karen San Diego? From BK to Belly, it's anywhere she say so. She changing your life, can see it straight through her eyes.